Get that junk off my platform before it embarrasses everyone. Grant Hollis's voice cut through Meridian Central Station just as 11-year-old Nia Brooks lifted her bow. Conversations paused beneath the great brass clock. Rolling suitcases clicked across the marble floor. The youth musicians around her lowered their instruments one by one, unsure whether to look at Nia or pretend they had heard nothing. Grant stepped over the extension cord and pulled the plug from the small speaker. Your permit expired. No, it didn't, the group leader said. It's right here. The decision is final. A station employee moved the microphone stand, and its metal base struck the edge of Nia's open violin case. The bridge shifted. The thin E string slipped with a sharp cry. Nia froze. Her violin had not shattered, but the sound was enough to make her hold it against her chest as if someone had insulted her mother. Marcus Reed looked up from the electrical panel 20 feet away. He wore a gray maintenance shirt, work boots, and a faded brown tool pouch. Most people in the station knew him only as the man who repaired loose outlets and stubborn speakers. They did not know his father had once repaired string instruments in a narrow booth beneath the same clock. Marcus crossed the floor without rushing. May I see it? He asked. Nia looked at Grant, then back at Marcus. My mom said never let strangers touch it. She gave you good advice, Marcus said. He crouched until they were eye level. You can hold it while I look. Lydia Crane, Nia's former violin teacher, appeared beside Grant in a cream-colored coat. Her smile carried the careful softness of someone used to sounding kind in public. Nia, this may be a blessing, she said. That instrument was never suitable for serious performance. Nia's eyes lowered. My mother played it. Lydia sighed. Sentiment cannot replace quality. Marcus examined the bridge without taking the violin from Nia's hands. The wood had twisted slightly, and the string had slipped from its groove. Near the chin rest, he noticed a dark crescent-shaped mark beneath years of worn varnish. He said nothing about it. I can make it safe, he told Nia. Grant folded his arms. You are on station time, Reed. Put your tools away. Marcus reached into his coat instead and removed a single violin string wrapped in paper. He had bought it for his 10-year-old son, Isaiah, whose school violin had begun to sound thin. Marcus studied Nia's face, then unwrapped it. This belongs to your kid? Nia asked. It belongs where it is needed most today. He loosened the tension, straightened the bridge a fraction, and guided the new string into place. He worked slowly, using only his fingertips and a small pencil from his pocket. Around them, the station resumed breathing. Announcements echoed overhead. Coffee steamed behind the kiosk. Lydia watched with growing impatience, while Grant kept glancing toward the arriving guests near the east entrance. Marcus placed the damaged string and a tiny shaving of wood into a paper envelope, wrote the time on it, and slipped it into his pouch. Why save that? Nia asked. Because people throw away small things before they learn what those things remember. He turned the peg gently. Try one note. Softly. Nia raised the violin. Her bow touched the new E string, rested for half a heartbeat, then moved. The note came out narrow, clear, and strangely human, rising through the station like someone calling from the far end of a tunnel. On the escalator across the hall, a black woman in a charcoal coat stopped so suddenly that the people behind her stepped around in confusion. Celeste Vaughn did not know the child. She did not know Marcus, but she knew that note. Not merely its pitch, but the delicate pause before it opened, the breath held inside it, the way it faded without truly ending. Her older sister had played it whenever they were separated in crowded places. 13 years had passed since Celeste last heard it. 13 years of private investigators returned letters and explanations that never felt complete. She stepped off the escalator and moved toward the gathering crowd. Lydia saw her first, and the color left her carefully composed face. Grant straightened his jacket. Marcus noticed both reactions. Celeste stopped beside Nia, staring not at the girl's clothes or the worn case, but at the crescent-shaped burn beneath the chin rest. Her voice was barely louder than the station's electric hum. Who taught you to play that note? Nia tightened her fingers around the violin. My mother. Celeste's eyes glistened, but she did not reach for the instrument. She did not make a claim. She only whispered the name she had not allowed herself to say with hope in years. Naomi? The name settled between them like dust in a beam of station light. Nia looked at Celeste with guarded confusion. My mother's name was Lena. Lena Brooks? Celeste asked. Yes. Then I may be mistaken. Her voice remained calm, but one hand tightened around the invitation card she carried. Marcus noticed. He also noticed Lydia Crane watching from several feet away, her expression too controlled for someone who had supposedly heard only an old student play a familiar note. Grant Hollis cleared his throat. This gathering is obstructing passenger traffic. Miss Brooks, collect your belongings. Her aunt is on the way, Marcus said. Until then, she stays with the instrument. Grant stepped closer. You are already outside your assigned duties. Then write it down. For a moment, neither man moved. The station lights hummed overhead. A train announcement rolled across the marble hall, followed by the soft rush of travelers moving around them like water around a stone. Marcus turned back to Nia. We need somewhere quieter. Your bridge is stable, but I want to check the peg box before you play again. Nia hesitated. You are not taking it apart, right? Not without your aunt's permission. That answer mattered. She nodded. Marcus led them to a small employee break room near the east corridor, leaving the door open. Celeste followed at a respectful distance. Lydia followed too. Grant did not, but his eyes remained fixed on the violin until the door closed behind them. Inside, Marcus laid a clean cotton cloth across the table. Nia kept both hands around the neck of the violin while he examined it under a desk lamp. My mother said it was not valuable, she said. She said people only wanted things after they decided they were expensive. Marcus gave a faint smile. Your mother understood people. He checked the bridge, traced the edge of the fingerboard, then leaned closer to the worn repair near the peg box. The wood had been patched years earlier with a narrow sliver shaped by hand. 2 faint letters sat beneath the varnish. E and R. Marcus felt a memory stir. His father had marked special repairs with his initials, never for pride, only so he could remember what had been done. Where did your mother get this? He asked. She said it belonged to her before I was born. Did she ever talk about where she grew up? Nia shook her head. Not much. She said some homes stop feeling like home. Celeste looked away. Marcus took out his phone and photographed the repair beside a small ruler. He recorded the time, the condition of the wood, and the position of the crescent burn. Then he wrote a simple receipt describing the string replacement and handed it to Nia. Keep this with the case. Lydia gave a patient sigh. Marcus, this is becoming unnecessarily dramatic. The instrument is an old student model. Nia heard rare material during her time in my program and repeated it. Children absorb things without understanding where they came from. Nia's face tightened. My mother taught me. Memory can be unreliable, Lydia said gently, especially after loss. Celeste turned toward her. What rare material? Lydia paused. Only for a second, but Marcus saw it. The phrase she played. It resembles an unfinished Vaughn family composition. I did not mention the Vaughn family, Celeste said. Lydia adjusted the cuff of her coat. Anyone connected to serious music would recognize it. Marcus looked at Nia. Do you have a recording of your mother teaching you? My aunt has one on her old phone, but the screen is broken. Do not erase it. Do not send it to anyone yet. Lydia stepped toward the table. I can have the violin stored safely until this is settled. Marcus placed one hand beside the case without touching Lydia. It is already safe. You do not understand what you are handling. Then explain how you do. Silence filled the room. Celeste studied Lydia carefully now, not as an old acquaintance, but as a witness whose words had begun. Arriving too early, Marcus lifted the violin toward the lamp and looked through the narrow opening in its body. At first he saw only dust and aged wood. Then the angle changed. A faded line of ink appeared inside, followed by numbers and letters written in a hand he had watched across hundreds of repair tags as a boy.
ER-17-NV.
His breathing slowed. Nia noticed. "What is it?" Marcus did not answer immediately. He photographed the mark, then lowered the instrument with both hands. Celeste stepped closer but did not reach for it. Lydia's face lost its careful softness. Marcus looked from the initials inside the violin to the initials engraved on the old pencil he still carried from his father's workbench. "My father repaired this instrument," he said. Then he turned to Celeste. "And if the last two letters mean what I think they mean, Naomi Vaughn once stood exactly where this station tried to make her daughter disappear." The words had barely left Marcus Reed's mouth when Lydia Crane reached for the violin case. "That is enough speculation," she said. "Nia has already been through a difficult day." Marcus closed the lid before Lydia could touch it. "Then stop making her carry the weight of adult secrets. You are a maintenance worker. Today I am the person who asked permission." Celeste Vaughn watched the exchange in silence. The fluorescent light above the break room flickered once, laying pale shadows across her face. She wanted to believe the letters inside the violin meant nothing. Initials could repeat. Memories could bend. Grief could teach the heart to recognize what it desperately wanted to find. Yet Lydia had known too much too quickly. Nia's aunt arrived 10 minutes later, breathless from crossing downtown traffic. Denise Brooks was a practical woman in a Navy medical uniform, still wearing her hospital identification badge. She listened without interrupting, then placed one protective hand on Nia's shoulder. "Nobody takes the violin," she said. "Not without something in writing." Marcus nodded. "That is exactly right." He explained the repair mark, the crescent burn, and Celeste's reaction to the melody. He did not call Nia Naomi's daughter. He did not promise a miracle. He only presented what they could see. Denise studied Celeste. "And who are you?" Celeste removed a small card from her coat. "Celeste Vaughn." Denise read the name, then looked toward the gold invitation still folded in Celeste's hand. Vaughn Transit and Arts Foundation, the organization whose banners hung across the station. The organization sponsoring Victor Hale's exhibition that evening. Before Denise could respond, 3 measured knocks sounded at the open door. A silver-haired man in a dark blue suit stood outside with an assistant carrying a narrow leather portfolio. His smile was warm, polished, and perfectly timed. "I hope I am not intruding," he said.
Victor Hale.
Nia's fingers tightened around the handle of the case. Marcus noticed. So did Celeste. Victor entered slowly, speaking as though he had arrived to solve a misunderstanding among friends. "Grant Hollis informed me that a young musician suffered an unfortunate accident. My foundation supports children in precisely these moments." He opened the portfolio and revealed photographs of several student violins. "I would be honored to replace the damaged instrument and cover 1 year of private instruction." Lydia's relief was almost invisible, but it was there. "That is remarkably generous," she said. Denise did not answer. Nia stared at the photographs. One violin had clean maple wood, bright varnish, and fittings that had never been worn smooth by another person's hand. "Would I have to give you my mother's violin?" she asked. Victor's smile remained steady. "Only so my conservator can study it. You would receive something far more suitable. Can I keep the case?" "Of course. I only need the instrument." The answer came too fast. Marcus looked at Victor's shoes, then at the case, then at the man's right hand. Victor had not asked to hear Nia play. He had not inspected the bridge. He had not even asked what had broken. He wanted the violin before knowing its condition. "Please put the offer in writing," Marcus said. Victor turned toward him. "And you are?" "Marcus Reed." Something passed through Victor's eyes, a brief calculation hidden beneath. "Courtesy." "Reed," he repeated. "Any relation to Elijah Reed?" Marcus did not answer immediately. "You said you came because of an accident." Victor glanced toward Celeste. "Collectors learn names. That is part of preserving history." He moved closer to the table. "May I?" Denise shook her head. No, Victor gave a gracious nod, but as Nia shifted the case, the lid opened several inches. The crescent burn became visible beneath the chin rest. Victor's gaze dropped directly to it. The candle mark survived, he murmured. Silence gathered around the table. No one had called it a candle mark. Celeste stepped forward. How did you know what caused it? Victor's smile weakened by a fraction. An educated guess. Nia looked up at Denise. Mom told me about a man named Hale. Victor's eyes returned to her. Did she? She said if he ever asked for her violin, I should leave. Lydia interrupted gently. Nia. Grief can confuse old conversations. Marcus stood between Victor and the table, not threatening, simply present. Then let us remove confusion. Send the offer through Denise's attorney. Until then, the instrument stays with the child. Victor adjusted his cuff. Be careful, Mr. Reed. Old objects encourage people to invent valuable stories. Marcus held his gaze. Sometimes valuable stories are invented to hide old objects. Victor turned to leave. At the doorway, he spoke quietly to his assistant, believing the station noise would cover his voice. Crane was right. The Reed mark is still there. Across the hall, a street musician's phone continued streaming live, its microphone pointed directly toward the open door. The street musician did not realize what his phone had captured until Marcus asked whether the live stream was still running. It never stopped, the young man said. The whole thing should be saved. Victor Hale was already halfway across the concourse when Celeste Vaughn turned to her assistant. Preserve that recording. Do not edit it. Do not send it to anyone except counsel. Lydia Crane's posture stiffened. Surely we are not treating a careless remark as evidence. No, Marcus said. We are treating it as a reason to ask better questions. Denise Brooks placed the violin case against her chest. Then ask them somewhere my niece is not surrounded by strangers. Celeste arranged a private rehearsal room on the second floor of the station, away from the exhibition banners and the afternoon crowd. An attorney who specialized in protecting minors arrived within 30 minutes. Marcus insisted that the attorney represent Nia's interests, not Celeste's foundation. Celeste agreed without argument. That choice mattered more to Marcus than her name or her money. Inside the rehearsal room, the air smelled faintly of polished wood and old sheet music. A black upright piano stood against one wall. Four chairs formed a loose circle beneath warm ceiling lights. Nia sat beside Denise with the violin across her lap. She looked tired now, not frightened, simply overwhelmed by adults speaking as if every memory she carried had become public property. Marcus crouched beside her. You do not have to play. Will it help prove my mother was telling the truth? She asked. It may help us know what question to ask next. Nia considered that, then nodded. Marcus proposed 3 separate tests. First, Nia would play the phrase exactly as her mother taught it, without hearing any example. Second, Celeste would write down the rhythm and the 3 notes that followed the opening note before Nia played. Third, Celeste would describe the crescent mark beneath the chin rest before anyone removed it for a closer look. The attorney placed Celeste's written answers inside an envelope and sealed it. No hints, Nia said. No hints, Marcus promised. Celeste turned her chair toward the wall so Nia could not read her face. The station seemed far away now. Only the soft rumble of a train passed through the floor. Nia raised the violin and rested the bow on the new string Marcus had given her. She touched the note gently, held it through a quiet breath, then let it open. 3 more notes followed, descending, pausing, then rising by a small interval that made Celeste close her eyes. Nia stopped after 6 seconds. That is all Mom taught me. The attorney opened the envelope. Celeste had written the same rhythm and the same 3 notes. Denise covered her mouth, but Marcus remained still. A match could be meaningful, could also have an innocent explanation. Where else was this melody performed? He asked. Celeste shook her head. Nowhere publicly. Naomi called it homebound, but she never finished it. Lydia stood near the piano with her arms folded. Private compositions circulate more often than families realize. Celeste looked at her. Then tell us where Nia could have heard it. Lydia answered too slowly. A lesson archive, perhaps. Which archive? I would need to review my records. Marcus turned to the violin. With Denise's permission, he loosened the chin rest just enough to reveal the mark beneath it. Before he lifted the hardware, the attorney asked Celeste to describe what they would find. A crescent burn, Celeste said. Darkest near the lower edge. Naomi held the violin too close to a candle during a power outage here at the station. The chin rest protected part of the wood. Marcus removed the piece. The burn matched her description exactly. Nia stared at it as though seeing her mother's childhood for the first time. Celeste took one step forward, then stopped herself. She did not touch the girl. She did not claim the violin. I recognize my sister, she whispered. Marcus carefully replaced the chin rest. Recognition is the beginning. Proof is what protects Nia when everyone leaves this room. Celeste nodded, accepting the correction. She asked her assistant to preserve every security recording from the East Concourse. Minutes later, Grant Hollis sent a message claiming the nearest camera had been offline for maintenance. Marcus checked the system report he had received that morning. The camera had transmitted continuously. Someone was already building a false explanation. He returned to the old repair index his father had left behind and ran his finger down the faded entries. Near the bottom of the page, one line stopped him cold. Job 17. Vaughn, Naomi. 2 instruments. Marcus turned the page, but the detailed record was gone. It had not fallen loose. The paper had been removed cleanly, close to the binding. Someone had known exactly which page mattered. The missing page changed the room more than any accusation could have. Marcus held the old index beneath the lamp while Celeste studied the clean edge near the binding. Someone removed it. Recently? Denise asked. No, Marcus said. The paper darkened around the cut years ago. Nia sat quietly with the violin case against her knees. She did not understand ledgers, ownership records, or why adults kept lowering their voices, but she understood one thing clearly. Someone had wanted part of her mother's story gone. Marcus remembered how his father worked. Elijah Reed distrusted single copies. Every repair order had been written on carbon paper, with one sheet placed in the ledger and another stored in a gray metal box beneath the old counter. Marcus had not opened that box since his father died. The narrow repair booth stood behind a locked service gate on the lower concourse, less than 100 yards from the room where Nia had played. Dust covered the shelves. A faded price list still hung beside the workbench.
Beau Ring, $12.
Bridge fitting, $18. Student repairs, pay what you can. Marcus ran his thumb across the edge of the counter, remembering his father telling nervous children that music should never become a privilege reserved for people with perfect instruments. Celeste remained near the doorway. She did not step farther inside until Marcus invited her. This was his place? She asked. For 27 years. Naomi may have stood here. The records will tell us more than hope will. Marcus knelt and felt beneath the counter. The metal box was gone. His expression changed. Arturo Salas, a retired custodian who had worked beside Elijah for nearly 2 decades, arrived after Marcus called him. Arturo listened, removed his cap, and looked toward the floorboards. Your father stopped keeping the box under the counter after the pipe burst, he said. He moved it where water could not reach. Where? Under the raised platform. They found 4 rusted screws beneath a strip of old carpet. Marcus loosened them with a hand tool while the attorney recorded the process. Beneath the platform sat a small gray box wrapped in waxed cloth. Its lock had corroded, but the seal around the lid remained intact. The attorney photographed it before Arturo identified Elijah's handwriting across the top. Repair duplicates, 1998 through 2014. Inside, hundreds of thin yellow copies stood in date order. Marcus turned them carefully until he found number 17. Naomi Vaughn. 2 instruments. Practice violin marked with the code inside Nia's instrument. Concert violin described as having a narrow repaired crack along the right rib. The final note was written in darker pencil. Release only to Naomi Vaughn. Do not release to Victor Hale without Naomi present. Nia looked at Celeste. Why would Grandpa Reed write that? Because he believed someone might try to take them, Celeste answered. The second sheet carried a pickup signature dated 3 weeks later. It claimed Naomi had collected the concert violin. Marcus placed an authenticated letter Naomi once sent Elijah beside it. Even without special training, the differences were visible. Naomi's real signature rose sharply at the end. The pickup signature fell flat. That is not proof by itself, the attorney warned. Then we test the ink, the paper, and the handwriting, Marcus said. Arturo pointed to another detail. Elijah always noted identification when anyone collected an instrument. This line is blank. Celeste contacted the independent conservator preparing Victor's exhibition. She requested a photograph of the violin displayed under Naomi's name. The image arrived minutes later. Along its right side was the same narrow repaired crack described on the carbon copy. For the first time, Celeste allowed herself to sit down. She had spent 13 years believing Naomi had sold the instrument, abandoned the family, and chosen silence. Now an old repair slip suggested someone else had shaped that story for her. Victor responded quickly. His attorney delivered a notarized transfer agreement bearing Naomi's signature, along with bank records showing a payment to her account. The documents looked official, clean, complete, stronger than a repairman's handwritten warning. Victor also released a statement calling Marcus an opportunist who had manipulated a grieving child to gain money from the Vaughn Foundation. Within an hour, Grant Hollis suspended Marcus for unauthorized use of station property and conflict of interest. His electronic access card stopped working before he could retrieve the camera report from his office. Marcus read the suspension notice without raising his voice. Denise watched him carefully. They are trying to scare you. They are trying to make the next person doubt the first thing they heard. Nia touched the worn fabric inside her violin case. My mother said papers can lie when the right person holds the pen. Her fingers paused over a crooked line of stitching near the lower corner. The thread was darker than the original lining, and one end had begun to loosen. She sewed this after she got sick, Nia said. She told me never to open it until the violin made it sound again. The attorney brought the camera closer. Denise gave permission. Marcus did not touch the seam. He only leaned toward it and saw the hard rectangular outline hidden beneath the fabric. Something had been waiting inside the case long before anyone heard that single note. The attorney asked everyone to step back before the seam was opened. Denise stood beside Nia, one hand resting lightly on her shoulder, while a forensic technician photographed the case from every angle. Marcus remained near the workbench, careful not to touch anything. He had learned from his father that repairing an object and preserving evidence required different kinds of patience. "Are you ready?" Denise asked. Nia nodded. Mom said to wait until the violin made its sound again. The technician cut only the newer thread. Beneath the lining was a small digital recorder wrapped in waxed paper, its screen dark and its metal edges marked by moisture. Nia stared at it. She used that when she practiced. Celeste moved closer, then stopped before crossing the circle of light around the table. "Did she ever tell you what was on it?" "No. She only said grown people sometimes change stories after someone is gone." The technician removed a memory card and placed it in a sealed evidence sleeve. A data specialist from the independent law firm arrived less than an hour later. He created a verified copy before attempting recovery. The first file opened with static, a breath, and the faint sound of a violin being tuned. Then a woman spoke. Celeste closed her eyes at once. The voice was older and more tired than she remembered, but it was Naomi. "Victor says Celeste signed the release." The recording broke into noise. "The concert violin is not his." Another gap swallowed several words. "Nia, keep the practice one." The final sentence ended before the name of the composition could be heard. No one spoke for several seconds. The air conditioner rattled above them. Somewhere beyond the locked service gate, a train rolled into the station with a low metallic hum. Celeste opened her eyes. "That is my sister." The attorney answered gently. It is a powerful identification, but the file still needs authentication. Marcus nodded. And the missing words matter. Celeste looked at him, almost wounded by his caution. Then she understood. He was not doubting her grief. He was protecting Nia from a truth that could collapse if they moved too quickly. What can be confirmed now? Denise asked. The specialist explained that the memory card was several years old. The file dates were consistent, and there was no immediate sign that the recording had been created recently. Full recovery would take more work. While he continued, Celeste's compliance officer called with another discovery. An archived message from Lydia Crane had been sent to Victor Hale after Nia's scholarship audition 6 months earlier. The subject line read private concern. The message itself was brief. Naomi's phrase has surfaced again. The child has the practice instrument. Lydia had written those words before she publicly called Nia an imitator. Celeste read the message twice. She knew. Marcus looked toward the closed rehearsal room door. She knew enough to warn him. A second report followed. Victor's foundation had paid monthly consulting fees to a company owned by Grant Hollis's brother. The payments increased during the weeks leading up to the exhibition. The contracts described community coordination, but no completed. Work had been documented. Denise lowered her voice. So Grant removed Nia because Victor wanted her gone. It is a strong possibility, the attorney said. But we still prove each step. Nia sat very still. Why did Miss Crane say my mother stole the song? No one answered immediately. Marcus pulled a chair beside her without sitting too close. Because sometimes people protect the story that protects them. Even teachers? Especially adults who forget that respect is something they owe children too. Lydia arrived with her own attorney before sunset. She claimed the email was merely a copyright warning. She insisted she had never heard the complete composition. Celeste placed the printed message on the table. Then why did you call it homebound in your attached notes? Lydia's face changed. Only slightly, but enough. Homebound had never been registered, published, or performed publicly. Naomi had used that name only in private rehearsal files. Before Lydia could answer, Celeste's phone rang. Victor wanted a confidential meeting. He offered to return the concert violin, restore Marcus to his job, pay for Nia's education, and end every dispute without public embarrassment. Marcus listened as Celeste repeated the terms. He is offering everyone something, Denise said. Not everyone, Marcus replied. He is offering nothing to Naomi except continued silence. The recovered audio suddenly cleared through the specialist's headphones. He raised one hand and replayed the final restored sentence through the speaker. Naomi's voice filled the room, quiet but unmistakable. Celeste never signed anything. Victor only told me she did. Naomi's restored sentence changed the question in the room. Until that moment, Celeste Vaughn had been searching for proof that Victor Hale had deceived her sister. Now she had to face something harder. Her own foundation had helped protect the deception. By 7 that evening, the board of the Vaughn Transit and Arts Foundation had gathered in a glass conference room above the station. Below them, workers prepared the exhibition beneath the great brass clock. White lights shone across the display case holding Naomi's concert violin. Guests were already arriving. Inside the conference room, the mood was colder. We should postpone the event, one board member said. We should settle privately, said another. Return the instrument. Offer the child full tuition. Restore Mr. Reed's position. No one benefits from a public scandal. Celeste stood at the head of the table with Naomi's recording transcript in front of her. Naomi benefits from the truth. Naomi is gone, a board member replied carefully. Your foundation is not. The words landed with the quiet cruelty of respectable advice. Their general counsel explained the risks. Former students might reopen scholarship decisions. Donors could withdraw. The station could terminate its partnership. Every payment connected to Lydia Crane, Grant Hollis, and Victor Hale could become part of an external review. Celeste looked through the glass wall at the foundation's name printed in gold above the concourse. For years, She had believed that name meant opportunity. Now she saw how easily a beautiful name could become a curtain. Marcus sat near the end of the table beside Denise and Nia's independent attorney. He had not asked to attend, but Celeste had insisted the board hear from the man they were preparing to silence. A folder was placed before him. It offered immediate reinstatement, back pay, funding for a repair workshop, and a consulting position. All he had to do was avoid public comment until the foundation completed an internal review. This agreement does not mention Nia, Marcus said. Her education will be covered separately, the council replied. It does not mention Naomi. That matter is complicated. Truth is often called complicated when simple words become expensive. A board member leaned forward. Mr. Reed, you could lose your job over this. Marcus looked at the unsigned agreement, then thought of Isaiah watching him leave for work each morning. I am a father. My reputation is what my son sees when I do not know he is watching. He closed the folder. I will not sign. Silence followed. 2 slow breaths passed beneath the soft hum of the building. Then Celeste made her decision. The internal review ends tonight. The council looked up. What do you mean? I am transferring the matter to independent investigators. Every payment, scholarship decision, access log, and contract connected to Victor Hale will be preserved. The exhibition collection will be frozen. No instrument leaves this station. Celeste, your name is on this building. Then its failures carry my name too. New evidence arrived before anyone could respond. Naomi's hospital records showed she had been admitted to a treatment center in Northern California on the exact date Victor's transfer agreement claimed she appeared before a notary in Illinois. Flight records showed no travel. Medical identification logs placed her inside the facility all day. The signature on Victor's contract had not merely looked wrong. The timeline made it nearly impossible. A second report confirmed that Grant had requested the East Concourse camera be disabled after Nia appeared. He had told everyone the camera was under maintenance. It was not. A technician had redirected the feed to a backup server during routine testing, preserving every minute. The footage showed Grant reading Nia's valid permit before ordering her removal. It also showed Victor arriving through a staff entrance 20 minutes earlier and speaking privately with him. Then came a company message Grant had sent to Victor. The girl will be removed before your speech. Denise read it once and handed it to the attorney. He knew she was coming. Or Lydia told him, Marcus said. Celeste looked toward Nia, who sat outside the conference room with a cup of cocoa and headphones, protected from the discussion. She should not have to stand in front of those people. Marcus agreed. She should not have to, but she should be allowed to choose. Celeste stepped into the hallway and sat beside Nia instead of asking her to enter the boardroom. Tomorrow, people may say things about your mother that are not true, Celeste said. We can stop the exhibition without putting you on that stage. Nia held the cup with both hands. Will they still say she stole the song? Some may. Then I want to play the note. Celeste's voice softened. You do not owe anyone a performance. I am not playing for them. I am playing so Mom's sound is there when the truth comes out. Celeste nodded. But before she stood, she said, I am sorry I did not find her. Nia looked down. You can be sorry later. First, make them stop lying. By midnight, the independent lawyers had secured the recording, the carbon copy, the camera files, the financial records, the hospital timeline, and the street musician's original livestream. Celeste refused to cancel the exhibition. Victor believed the public stage belonged to him. She intended to let him make every claim beneath working cameras, in front of witnesses, beside the violin he said was lawfully his. Across the station, Victor received Grant's final message. Reed and the girl are coming. Victor adjusted his tie, looked at Naomi's violin inside the glass case, and smiled. Then we finish this in public. By 10 the next morning, Meridian Central Station looked less like a place of departure and more like a courtroom disguised as a celebration. White lights surrounded the glass case holding Naomi Vaughn's concert violin. Reporters gathered beneath the great brass clock. Donors filled the front rows. Lydia Crane sat near the stage with her hands folded, while Grant Hollis moved through the crowd wearing the calm expression of a man who believed policy could protect him. Victor Hale stepped to the microphone. Today, we honor an artist who chose freedom over fame. Celeste Vaughn stood behind him without applause. Marcus Reed waited beside Denise and Nia near the same column where the girl had been ordered to leave. Nia held her repaired practice violin against her shoulder. "You do not have to do this," Marcus whispered. "I know," she said. "That is why I can." Victor continued his polished story. Naomi had sold her instrument willingly. Naomi had transferred the rights to Homebound. Naomi had left her family by choice. Each claim sounded complete until Celeste walked toward the microphone. "Before we preserve a story," she said, "we must make certain we are not preserving a lie." The room shifted. Grant raised 2 fingers toward station security. "Remove the unauthorized performers." "Stop," Celeste said. "Their permit is valid. This is a private foundation event. Inside a public station funded by a partnership my foundation will now place under audit." Grant lowered his hand, but his composure had cracked. Nia looked at Celeste. "May I play my mother's note?" Celeste stepped away from the microphone. "Yes." Marcus checked the bridge, tested the peg gently, and returned the violin without ceremony. He did not introduce Nia. He did not tell the audience what to feel. He simply stood beside her. The bow touched the E string. The note began softly, paused like a held breath, then opened beneath the station roof. Travelers stopped. Coffee cups lowered. Even the distant announcement seemed to fade behind it. When Nia finished, Naomi's recovered recording played through the speakers. The same touch, the same pause, the same 3 descending notes. Celeste's eyes filled, but she did not call emotion proof. "Recognition brought us here," she said. "Evidence tells us why." An independent conservator displayed photographs of the code inside Nia's violin. ER-17-NV. Arturo Salas explained Elijah Reed's repair system and identified the carbon copy made on the day Naomi brought 2 instruments to the station booth. The record described the practice violin, the crescent burn, and a narrow repaired crack along the right side of the concert violin. The glass case was illuminated. The crack was visible exactly where Elijah had written it years before Victor claimed ownership. Victor leaned toward his attorney. "An old repair slip proves nothing." "Then let us continue," Celeste said. A handwriting examiner showed that the signature collecting the violin differed from authenticated letters written by Naomi. Hospital records placed Naomi inside a treatment facility in Northern California on the day Victor's notarized agreement claimed she signed papers in Illinois. Entry logs, medical identification, and staff testimony confirmed she never left. Lydia rose. "This is an attack built from grief and coincidence." Celeste displayed Lydia's archived email. Naomi's phrase has surfaced again. "The child has the practice instrument." "You sent this 6 months ago," Celeste said. "Before Nia played here. Before anyone publicly identified the instrument." Lydia glanced toward Victor. That glance said more than her answer. Grant tried next. "My only concern was station safety." The backup camera footage appeared on the large exhibition screen. It showed Grant reading Nia's valid permit, meeting privately with Victor, and ordering the child removed moments before the performance. His company message followed. "The girl will be removed before your speech." Grant looked down. Victor remained composed. "Consulting payments are legal. Emails can be misunderstood. Recordings can be edited." The data specialist confirmed the age and integrity of Naomi's memory card. Then Naomi's voice filled the hall. "The concert violin is not his. Celeste never signed anything. Victor only told me she did." Victor stepped toward the microphone. "I never knew that child was Naomi's daughter." Marcus spoke for the first time. "Then why did you say the reed mark was still there?" The street musician's original livestream played. Victor's own voice echoed through the station. Crane was right. The reed mark is still there. No one moved. No one whispered. Victor stared at the screen as every separate fact closed around the same truth. Celeste faced the audience. Effective immediately, This exhibition is suspended. Every instrument and document connected to it will remain secured during an independent investigation. Our foundation will release its records and accept responsibility for failing to ask the questions this child deserved. Victor finally lost the warmth in his voice. You are destroying a legacy. Celeste looked at Nia.
No.
We are returning it to the person you tried to erase. The station fell completely silent. Nia did not smile. Justice was not a performance to her. She only lowered her violin and asked, Will my mother's name be put back on her music? Celeste answered without looking at the cameras. Yes, not because I am powerful, but because the evidence says it belongs there. After the crowd began to separate, Celeste approached Nia slowly. What would you like me to call you? Nia looked at Denise, then at Marcus, then at the worn violin. Her mother had protected. Nia, she said. For now. Celeste nodded. Nia, then. And for the first time that day, the billionaire did not lead the way. She walked beside the child. 3 months later, the great brass clock at Meridian Central Station still marked every arrival and departure. But the space beneath it no longer belonged only to donors, officials, and polished exhibitions. The investigation into Victor Hale remained active. Naomi Vaughn's concert violin stayed sealed under independent protection, where no collector, foundation, or family member could move it without authorization. Grant Hollis remained suspended while the station reviewed years of permits and consulting payments. Lydia Crane faced a professional hearing, and every scholarship decision she had influenced was being reconsidered. None of that restored the years Naomi had lost, but justice rarely returned time. Could only stop the stealing from continuing. Nia's practice violin rested on a folded cloth inside the old repair booth once owned by Elijah Reed. Marcus had been reinstated with back pay and a written apology, but he refused the private office Celeste offered him. Instead, he accepted a transparent contract to restore the narrow booth as a community repair shop. Above the door, a simple wooden sign read the homebound bench. Beneath it, smaller words carried the promise Marcus cared about most. No child loses music because a family cannot afford a repair. Isaiah Reed sat on a stool sorting strings by size while Marcus examined the worn edge of Nia's violin. Will the burn disappear? Nia asked. No, Marcus said. It is part of the instrument now. Is that bad? Only if it keeps the violin from doing its job. He adjusted the old chin rest without covering the crescent mark. He preserved the code inside the body, the repair his father had made, and every honest sign of use. Marcus believed dignity was not the same as looking untouched. Sometimes dignity meant carrying the truth without allowing it to silence you. Celeste arrived without an assistant, security detail, or announcement. She brought 2 cups of hot cocoa, 1 container of coffee, and a box of photographs that had belonged to her mother. Denise entered behind her. Nia still lived with Denise, and every meeting with Celeste happened on Nia's terms. Money had not changed custody. Power had not replaced trust. Celeste had learned that family could not be claimed with a signature any more than music could. I found something, she said, placing 1 photograph on the bench. It showed 2 young black girls sitting on the floor of the station during a power outage. Naomi held a violin. Celeste held a candle too close. Nia studied the photograph, then looked at the crescent mark beneath her own chin rest. You caused it. I did, Celeste admitted. Your mother told everyone she did because she thought I would get in trouble. Nia smiled for the first time that afternoon. That sounds like Mom. Marcus fitted the final string and handed the violin to her. It is ready. Celeste offered to purchase a better instrument, but Nia shook her head. Maybe someday. I want to hear this one first. She raised the violin near the booth's open window. The station moved around her. Suitcases rolled. Doors opened. A child waited nearby with a cracked school cello. Celeste sat beside Denise instead of taking the closest place to Nia. The first note rose gently into the afternoon light. This time, Celeste did not freeze. She stayed for the second note and the third and every uncertain measure that followed. When Nia finished, Celeste opened the box of photographs again. Would you like to hear what your mother was like when she was 11? Nia pulled an empty chair closer. Yes, Aunt Celeste. Celeste's breath caught, but she did not turn the moment into a celebration. She simply sat down and began. Marcus returned to the waiting cello. Isaiah opened a new repair ledger and carefully wrote the date at the top of the first page. What do I put for the customer name? He asked. Marcus looked at the young boy holding the instrument, then at Nia listening to a story that had waited too many years to be told. Write his name exactly as he gives it, Marcus said. Every instrument deserves an honest record. Sunlight passed through the station roof and settled across Elijah's old workbench. Nia began homebound again, quieter this time. The note that once stopped an entire room now invited people forward. Marcus did not step onto a stage. He did not ask anyone to remember his part in the story. He only turned a small wooden peg between his fingers, keeping another child's music from breaking, while truth, grace, and second chances continued their work.